It's Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. Markets decimated today. Dow Jones down 1,464 points. You know, I couldn't even make a video yesterday because I was mentally exhausted from watching this day in and day out. I wake up yesterday, the market's up nearly 1,000 points, then it's down 1,000 points, and then it comes back and closes up over 1,000 points. And here we are today, Dow Jones down over 1,400 points. You know, as I watch these markets being decimated, I'm watching the business shows, and it's really incredible watching the carelessness and the irresponsibility of some of these people on these shows, you know, telling us while the markets are being decimated, while we're now getting warnings from the government about how dangerous this infection is and how it's getting out of control. These puppets who push the propaganda are telling us that we should go on a cruise. We should jump on an airplane and go on a vacation. We should go to a sporting event and be around a lot of people, or we should go to a shopping mall and spend money. And of course, every one of them is telling you and I, we need to be investing in these markets. We need to be buying these dips. There are going to be many, many more dips coming to these markets, no doubt about it. If you're buying in these markets right now, you are buying falling knives. But you know, these people and these analysts on these shows, remember, they're getting paid by the corporations that advertise on their shows, the big corporations on Wall Street who are pulling the strings of these puppets. And it's really sad to see how they just make things seem so simple, and how they just make everything seem so complacent that it's no big deal. We're only down 1,400 points today. There's no reason to panic. Panic selling would be the worst thing you should do. You shouldn't sell. You shouldn't be buying gold. You shouldn't be buying silver. You should be buying the falling knives. You should be hanging around big crowds. Anybody taking advice from these people really should be very, very cautious. We saw the 10-year bond yield push back today as gold and silver got pushed down. And why is that? You know, I don't have the answer to everything. There's many people out there watching this video that know a lot more than I do, that's for sure. But the conclusion or conclusions that I come to when in regards to what's happening in gold and silver, and what happened with the 10-year bond today, is that there is a run to cash. There is panic. There is fear. People are running to cash. And I believe that at some point the dollar is going to be under extreme pressure. But right now, people are running to cash. That's my opinion. As Ray Dalio said, though, cash is trash. You know, people here in America and across the world are going to lose faith in these financial institutions here in the U.S. They're going to lose faith in the U.S. dollar. And we've seen that already begin. But as things get worse, as we're going to see massive stimulus programs, as we're going to see more massive repo injections, and beginning tomorrow, the repo injections are going to get even bigger. As we're going to see these massive bailouts take place, ask yourself, who's going to pay for all this? We are going to see the printing presses printing nonstop, 24 hours a day, and that is going to continue to devalue the US dollar even more than it's already been devalued. And as it continues to devalue, as these banks get into bigger and bigger trouble and need more and more bailouts, you and I are going to continue to lose faith in the banks. We're going to lose faith in the US dollar. And that cash sitting on the sidelines has no choice but to go to gold, to go to silver, because there's no other choices. The two most undervalued assets in the entire world are gold and silver. It's not the US dollar. The smart money, the billionaires, the central banks have been buying gold and silver for years. And as soon as a big hedge fund comes in because they're concerned about the US dollar, they're concerned about the stock market, where do you think they're going? They're going to go to gold, they're going to go to silver. And once a big hedge fund gets into the picture, most people are never going to be able to buy an ounce of gold in their life. And that is going to obviously drive the price of silver to the moon, and it's going to get harder and harder to get when that happens. And so my point being is, right now you can buy an ounce of gold, you can buy an ounce of silver, although people who are buying at coin shops, people who are buying online are telling me that there is limited supply. Certain coins are not in inventory right now. So I don't know. I haven't looked myself. I haven't really spoken to anybody about inventory of gold and silver, but I would imagine that it is getting lean right now. And as this market continues to get beat up, I don't care how low gold or silver goes, I will continue to buy it, because paper and the US dollar is on borrowed time. I want to talk a little bit about the deficit here in America. This year, we're averaging a monthly deficit of $124,904,400,000 per month. The federal government, for the first 5 months of the fiscal year, are running a deficit of $624,522,000,000 just in the first 5 fiscal months of this year. So we know we're going to be flooded with massive stimulus, quantitative easing, massive repo injections. Ask yourself, where is this money coming from? We are $23+ trillion in debt already. The Fed's balance sheet is expanding at a record pace. Where's the money coming from? You know exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from the printing press. It's going to be digits on a screen, meaning you're going to be paying more for items at the store. Okay, the bailouts aren't coming for you. We're going to see cruise lines bailed out. We'll see banks bailed out, airlines bailed out, farmers bailed out, corporations bailed out. You and I are not getting a bailout. What is going to happen is your dollar and my dollar is going to take a massive haircut. It's going to have less buying power. So that means every time you go to the store, you will be paying much more. So is it a good idea to have some assets put away like gold and silver? 100%, because as Ray Dalio said, cash is trash, and it's going to get trashed a lot more in the coming year. You know, just take a look at history. A few years back in Cyprus, when people got locked out of their bank accounts, they couldn't access their money. The ATMs didn't work. Just recently in Lebanon, their currency crashed. Their ATMs shut down. Their banks closed. People, whatever money they had to hurry up and spend it. They went out, they bought cars, they bought art, they bought real estate, they bought gold, and they bought silver. Whatever they could buy, whatever they could spend the money on to get rid of the paper and buy something that they could actually touch. That's coming to America. You know, in Lebanon, a rubber band is worth more than some paper currency, because it at least does something. That is coming to America. And so I know a lot of people don't believe it, but there are a lot of people who are watching what you and I are watching unfold right now who still do not believe what is happening, who still cannot digest and believe what is happening right before their very eyes. That's the type of denial that we're seeing here in America. It's happening right before their very eyes, and they believe that everything's going to be okay. They believe that the government is going to save them, that the Federal Reserve is going to save them. The same Fed that is printing massive amounts of money, vaporizing your dollar right now, is going to save you. They're going to save you by doing what got us into this mess, by printing money and putting rates to zero. That's what we're doing. That's what's going to save us. No, that's what got us into this mess, and that is not going to get us out of this mess. So be prepared for massive bailouts, and also be very, very prepared for bail-ins like what happened in Cyprus and what is happening in Lebanon. Remember, the banks are looking out and will look out for themselves, not you. When you lend them your money, that is now their property. When you put that safety deposit box in their bank, that is their property. If they get into enough trouble and the bailouts don't work, guess what they're doing? They're coming after your money. They're going to come after your assets. So as I'm making this video this evening, the president just came out. I'm going to call it an emergency declaration. And he said that we are not going to allow flights from Europe into America. So no flights from Europe are allowed into the U.S. He also talked about the severity of this disease, this infection, and how we're going to fight it and how we're going to defeat it. So that was encouraging. I do have a problem that why are we allowing flights from any country into America right now? Not just Europe, but why are we allowing flights from anywhere in the world into America? He also brought up tax relief, employer and employee tax relief. I don't think that this will pass. And is it really going to be enough to deal with the situation that we have on our plate right now? He also mentioned the booming economy and the strong consumer. And I do not understand why he keeps doing this. I think he needs to stop this. I think he needs to get real with the people of America. I think he needs to come to the table, address the people, and as he address the severity now of this infection, he needs to address the severity of this economy and this market. I get it. He doesn't want to crash it, but it's crashing right now. He needs to get ahead of this disease, and he needs to get ahead of this economy and these markets. If he doesn't, it's not going to stop. The infection won't stop. The economy isn't going to stop seizing up. It's going to continue to seize up, and the stock market is going to continue a downhill spiral. Every one of you know that this is not a booming economy. The consumer has never been weaker. I just made some notes, and I want to go over them with you of why this is not a booming economy. Hundreds of billions of dollars in repo injections is not the sign of a strong economy. We would not be doing repo injections if this economy and these markets were strong. $1 trillion deficits, $23.3 trillion in U.S. debt. This is not a strong economy. Unfunded pensions. Why are we not paying debt down? Why are we not funding these pensions? Why are they unfunded? Why are we not getting money into these pensions if this economy is booming? 80% of people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. The consumer is not strong. Massive stimulus programs are coming. You typically don't have that in a booming economy. We will be at zero or very, very near 0% interest rates next week. If we were in a booming economy, we would have normalized rates right now. So I wish the president would stop doing that. So the president has spoken. It was probably about an hour ago. The futures are down over 900 points. Where is the good news tomorrow that's going to lift these markets up other than the stimulus that we're going to see, the massive repo injections? The repo injections are about to get much bigger tomorrow too. Is it going to work? I don't think it is going to, but I got an article here on Zero Hedge. Boeing to draw down full $13.8 billion revolver, hinting at bank lending freeze. This is very interesting. We are going to see credit freezing up, and Boeing knows it. They're drawing down the full loan amount of $13.8 billion as early as Friday. They're very worried about credit freezes, and I think all of you should be very worried about it also, because it is going to be another grenade in this stock market when this happens. This alone, this blue chip company borrowing nearly $14 billion shows that they know something that most people don't. But they know that credit is going to tighten up. And this alone should really impact the markets. When we start seeing credit freezing up, what this is going to do to business, to the stock market, what's going to happen when people's credit cards, their limits start getting cut. people are going to be in very, very big trouble. But Boeing, right here, just this alone should rock Wall Street. And this is not doing it any favors, but it's another bellwether with the credit freezes that we're going to see coming very, very soon. Dow, zero hedge, Dow crashes into bear market, fastest drawdown in market history. CNBC, Dow falls hard into bear market, and analysts say the selling could be far from over. The Dow Jones has lost 20% since February 12th. So how does a country riddled in debt, an economy based on consumption, consumers buying things with money they don't have, a country that doesn't produce anything, how does a country like America get out of this? Unfortunately, I believe we're going to skip the recession and go right into the greatest depression the world has ever seen. You know, this is really, really concerning because if and when we do go into a depression, how do we get out of it? You know, China's having a hard time right now. There's no doubt about that. But at some point, when things settle down, they're going to turn the lights back on. They're going to fire up the factories. They're making half the world's steel. They manufacture almost everything. They're the second biggest economy in the world, and arguably the biggest economy in the world. They produce quite literally everything. The average Chinese citizen is not riddled in debt. They don't have an economy based on debt. 70% of our GDP is based on consumption. We're producing nothing but debt. That's the opposite of China. Also, China has over 20,000 tons of gold. If they come to the world and say, hey, we're going to back our currency with gold, the factories are back up, we're going to produce massive amounts of steel, and you know the lights are back on and we're up and running. What is America going to do to get out of its depression? I believe China can and will get out of its depression. What is America? Oh, and let's not forget the infrastructure in China. They've built high rises, they've built giant cities, new airports, new freeways. What have we been doing? Our infrastructure continues to disintegrate, to decay. So we'll come out of this broken. We'll come out of this unable to make anything. We can't even make our own pharmaceuticals. We don't even make our own drugs here. We're being blackmailed now by a communist regime that if we don't play ball, they may just not export pharmaceuticals to America. So we're in a really, really weak position here. Our oil fracking industry, our energy industry could be really, really damaged here. Also, having massive amounts of debt. The fracking and shale industry out here is loaded with debt, loaded with junk bonds that could really be in big trouble. So again, China is in a much better place than we are right now. CNBC, top U.S. health officials say the infection is 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu. Well, isn't it amazing? A couple of weeks ago, we were being told by our politicians, being told by the CDC, nothing to worry about. Now, Dr. Fauci comes out. Now the president's coming out saying that, yeah, maybe it's a little worse off than originally stated, and maybe we shouldn't be hanging out in big crowds like they were telling us on the business shows today. Also, we know that this infection is much more damaging for people that have bad immune systems, people in bad health. And that means that that's about 50% of the U.S. population, because half of the U.S. population is obese. So again, we're not just talking about getting in good financial shape. We're not just talking about food and water. We're not talking about just security. You as an individual need to be your own asset. You need to get in the best shape as possible. Make sure you're taking your vitamins, make sure you're washing your hands, make sure that you're walking or running, being active. Personally, I've stayed out of the gym for 2 weeks because of this, and I don't know when I'm going to be going back. So, all I can do is walk, maybe do a little running, be active somehow. But you've got to take care of your body because that's all you've got to rely on. At the end of the day, you're going to be relying on your body and your immune system. So you don't want to be a target here. Earning expectations are starting to plunge. Here are the worst impacted sectors. So here's the expectations. I jotted down a few of them for the first quarter of 2020, and they have been slashed, and they are slashed by humongous numbers. The automobile sector expectations slashed by 31%. Oil, gas, consumable fuels slashed by 23%. Personal products, 22%. Hotels, restaurant, and leisure, it has been slashed by 17%. Luxury goods slashed by 15%. Construction and engineering slashed by 14%. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say that these numbers are going to get much worse. Look, these markets are right now, futures down over 900 points. Massive stimulus, massive repo, massive money printing coming, and this infection is about to get much worse. So the expectations, I believe, are going to be slashed much, much more in the next coming weeks. The repo market, real quick, beginning tomorrow through April 13th of 2020, the desk will offer at least 175 billion. Let me repeat this. Beginning tomorrow through April 13th of 2020, the desk will offer at least $175 billion in daily overnight repo operations and at least $45 billion in 2-week term repo operations twice per week over this period. And this is probably not going to be enough. Also, additionally, the Fed is offering 3 1-month repo operations beginning tomorrow. Each of these operations will be at least $50 billion. And again, this is probably not going to be enough. They are going to run these printing presses 24 hours a day. It is imperative that you are putting hard, tangible assets like gold and silver away. Yes, you should have cash, but they are going to annihilate cash. It is unbelievable what is taking place here. But, I think the dollar is on its last legs. Does that mean it's going to be the end of the dollar? No. They are going to have to back the dollar, buy gold or silver in order to save it because they are killing it right now by what they are doing. SHTFplan.com today. The president cannot save the crashing economy and his re-election chances are getting slimmer. Look, tax cuts and extending unemployment benefits are not going to save the economy, and it's not going to save the consumer. Look, massive unemployment is coming to America. There is no doubt about it. The writing is on the wall. Get prepared for it. And when people don't have jobs, they do not care how much a gallon of gas is or how much it's going to cost to get a mortgage because they're not working. We have a society living on credit cards here that is not prepared for what is coming. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're living hand to mouth. If one person in that household loses a job, the husband or the wife, it's going to be big trouble. 25% of this country now is dependent on a credit card just to survive. This country, this federal government, is dependent on a credit card to survive. The nation is living on a credit card. The consumer and the household is living on a credit card. And this is why living on a credit card is so dangerous. This is why not having a savings or an emergency fund is so dangerous. This is why having big bills, massive deficits, and big debts, whether that's the US government or the consumer, this is why it's so dangerous. Because, now it's raining. The storm is here. We have 0 rates as of next week, 0% interest rates next week, massive debt, and the debts are going to get bigger as stimulus and the repo injections get even larger. We have nothing to fall back on. All we're going to do is fire up the printing press And ladies and gentlemen, you can say goodbye to the U.S. economy, what's left of it, because we make nothing here. We do nothing but consume. You can say goodbye to the U.S. economy, and you can say goodbye to the U.S. dollar. All this is on borrowed time. You're going to experience the greatest depression the world has ever seen unless a miracle takes place very, very soon. We have a disease now running rampant all over the world, and it's running rampant right here in America, and yet people are denying it. People are denying the dangers of this debt and this economy. And look, I don't know about you. These are going to be very, very scary times, and I'm prepared the best that I can. And tomorrow, I'm going to prepare even more. I'm going to continue to buy metals. I'm going to continue to buy brass, and I'm going to continue to be awake and aware of what's happening. This is no time to be playing games. This is no time to be spending money you don't have. This is the time to hunker down and get ready. You're going to see an economic war take place. We're going to be in a war with a disease we don't know much about, and we have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. As I said earlier, the futures market is down over 900 points. We have no idea what we're going to wake up to tomorrow. It could be another bloodbath like today. All I can say, is continue to prepare the best that you can. To the people out there who continue to comment and say this is nothing but doom and gloom, I feel sorry for you, and I'm praying for you. But I truly do feel sorry for you, because you live your life in denial, and you obviously live your life in fear. Now, admittedly, I'm a little bit worried about what's happening and what's coming. But I've prepared, and I've prepared the best that I can, and I'm going to prepare more tomorrow and the next day and every day that I have. I'm going to continue to prepare. But I do not live my life in fear. But the people out there that judge you and I and call us doom and gloom, fear-mongering, I feel sorry for those people, because they obviously are living in fear right now. And when this whole thing really implodes, as we continue to see more sick people, we see these markets erode even more as people lose everything that they saved up for, that they've invested in these markets, that they were dependent on. Their futures are going to be wiped out. To the people out there that believe it's doom and gloom, it's amazing how blind you really are to watch what is happening right before your very eyes. Historical financial events are happening in these markets, and you're ignoring them. And I think you're ignoring them because you're very fearful for what's coming, and you haven't prepared. And I feel sorry that you haven't prepared, and I'm going to feel even more sorry for you when this whole thing implodes, because you're going to be those people wiped out. To the people out there who have been paying attention, who have been watching the bellwethers, who haven't been living their life in denial, who haven't been living their life in fear. Look, if you're prepared, yeah, it's concerning. There's no doubt. There is some, I'm going to admit, I'm concerned, but I'm not going to live my life in fear. I prepared the best that I can, and I say my prayers to God every night to protect me, my family members, and that's all we can do. But God gave us a brain, and He told us to use it, and I hope every one of you is using it right now, because big trouble is coming to America, and God is warning every one of you to prepare mentally, physically, spiritually, and yes, financially. Stay close to God, stay in shape. Make sure tomorrow you take some time and you continue to prepare. God bless.